It was a quiet, cold night. John sat alone in his small cabin on the edge of the forest. The heater hummed softly, and the wind howled outside. He had just made a cup of hot tea. The fire in the fireplace crackled gently. It was peaceful. Then knock. Knock, knock. John froze. It was past midnight. No one ever came here, not this late. He reached for the pistol on the table. His soldier instincts kicked in. Quietly, he walked to the door and looked through the small screen. At first, he saw nothing. Then he looked down and his heart skipped a beat. Standing there was a woman. Not human. Her skin was a soft blue color. Her eyes were large and glowing, faintly in the dark. She wore a torn gray cloak that was soaked with rain. Behind her, hiding in the shadows, were two small figures, children. They looked like her. She was shaking. John opened the door slowly. Cold wind rushed in, but the woman didn't move. Her voice trembled. "Please, we have nowhere else." John didn't move. His mind raced. What was an alien woman with children doing here, in the middle of nowhere? "Who are you?" he asked. She took a deep breath, holding the children close. "My name is Jari," she said. "These are my children. We need shelter. Just for tonight." John looked at them. The kids were silent, scared. One of them was barefoot. The other had a small cut on his cheek. John stepped back. "Come in." The alien woman hesitated, then walked in with her children. They were wet, cold, and clearly exhausted. John shut the door quickly and locked it. Jari stood near the fireplace, holding the kids close. She didn't ask for anything. She just stood there, silent, watching the fire like she hadn't seen one in years. John made them warm tea. The kids drank it fast. Jari just held the cup but didn't sip. "Where are you from?" he asked. She didn't answer. "Why come here?" She looked up at him, her eyes full of sadness. "I heard that a human lives here." "A kind one, a former soldier." John raised an eyebrow. "Who told you that?" Again silence. "I came because I had no other choice," she said softly. John sighed and handed her a towel. "Dry off. The kids can sleep on the couch. You can take the guest room." Jari nodded slowly. "Thank you." That night, John didn't sleep. He sat by the fire, staring at the door to the guest room. Who was she? Why was she running? Why did she come exactly to him? The next morning, John cooked breakfast. The kids ate like they hadn't eaten in days. Jari only drank water. She looked tired, older than before. He had questions, but he waited. When the kids were busy drawing on old paper with crayons, John had. He sat across from Jari. "I need answers," he said. She nodded. "You deserve them." But instead of speaking, she reached into her coat and pulled out something. It was a small metal badge. Alien writing on one side, and a worn-out picture on the other. It was her and a tall alien male. Her mate. He was a warrior, she said. Fought in the war. The one your kind helped stop. John leaned forward. "He died," she whispered. "Not in battle. He was betrayed. And after that, they came for me and my children." John's eyes narrowed. "Who?" She shook her head. "I don't know. I don't trust anyone. I ran. And I found this location, by luck." John didn't believe in luck. Something felt off. And then she looked into his eyes and said something that made him pause. "I chose you, human. For a reason." John felt a chill down his spine. Outside, the wind howled louder. John woke before sunrise, not because of a noise, because of a feeling, the kind of feeling he hadn't had since his days in combat. Someone watching him. His hand reached quietly under the pillow and wrapped around the grip of his pistol. He didn't move right away. He listened. Nothing. Then, a soft whisper near the fireplace. He sat up, gun ready. And there she was. Zha single quotes are I. Sitting cross-legged on the floor, her glowing eyes watching the fire. Her two children were asleep on the couch behind her. Blankets covered them, their breathing soft and steady. John stood slowly. "You couldn't sleep?" he asked, voice low. Jari didn't turn to him. "Humans have strange dreams, loud ones. I heard them from your room." He blinked. "My nightmares?" She finally turned to look at him. "War leaves scars, on the mind too." John walked over and poured 2 cups of hot water. No tea this time. Just warmth. He handed her a cup. "You were in a war?" he asked. Jari stared into the steam rising from the cup. "My world burned," she said simply. "Not with fire but betrayal." John sat on the floor across from her. "Tell me your name, your real one." She nodded slowly. "Jari Cathal." He repeated it softly. "Jari." She looked at him now, really looked. "You've seen death," she said. "I see it in your eyes. But there's still something alive inside you." John didn't answer. Jari sipped the hot water inside. Her voice turned quieter. "My mate, my husband, was a decorated captain. Brave, loyal. He believed in peace with humans." "And that got him killed?" John asked. Jari nodded. "They said he died in an ambush, but I know better. He found something, a secret. He tried to tell someone, and then he vanished. His body was returned, but his eyes were still open, like he didn't believe it was the end." John stared at the fire. Jari continued, her voice shaking for the first time. "They came for me next. At night, I ran with the children. We slept in caves, in cargo bays, on empty planets. Always hiding." John narrowed his eyes. "And then you found me." Jari nodded again. "I heard stories about a human soldier who lived alone, who saved lives during the Battle of Vaxxer. A soldier with no medals, but with honor." John didn't speak. The memory of that day, of the smoke, the screams, the decision he made came back like a wave. "You think I'm that man?" he finally asked. "I know you are." Silence fell again. The fire crackled. The children stirred in their sleep. Then Jari whispered, "I came to you because I want my children to live, and I need someone I can trust." John looked at her, surprised. "Why trust me?" Jari smiled weakly. "Because you didn't shoot me when you opened the door." John stood up and walked to the window. The forest was still dark, but something moved between the trees. A shadow. Fast. He turned back quickly. "We're not safe here." Jari was already on her feet. "I felt it too," she said. "Something's hunting." John grabbed his old rifle from the cabinet. "Is it them? The ones who came after you?" "I don't know," she said. "But if they find us, they won't stop." John looked at her. At the 2 small kids now waking up, rubbing their eyes. At the fear hidden behind her calm face. "You and your kids can stay," he said. "But if danger comes, we fight together." Jari's eyes softened. "Thank you." But just before she turned away, she said something strange. "The children. They already think of you as their father." John froze, and somewhere deep in his chest, a part of him he thought was dead moved. John opened the hatch to the attic. Dust filled the air. Broken boxes, old gear, a photo of his squad. A war he never wanted to remember. But he wasn't up there for memories. He was hiding them. Jari and the kids were now upstairs, lying flat and silent. Something had moved in the woods again, closer this time. John sat on the floor with his rifle across his lap. Then came the question he couldn't stop thinking about. What war did she mean? The war humans were told was over? Or a different one, the one no one talks about? Downstairs, Jari stood in the kitchen. Her long fingers traced the edges of a photo on the wall. John with his squad, smiling, young, alive. She whispered, "They never told your people the full truth, did they?" John heard her from the attic vent above. "What truth?" he asked. Jari looked up. Her voice was flat. "The war your leaders helped end. It didn't end. It just changed shape." John climbed down slowly. Jari stared at him, calm. But serious. They call it peace now. But it's only peace because the silence is louder than the truth. John blinked. Start from the beginning. Jari sat down at the small kitchen table. There was a secret treaty, she said, signed between humans and certain alien leaders. Not all of them. Only the ones with power. The rest of us, those who questioned, those who didn't bow, were erased. John sat across from her. You're saying the war didn't stop. It just went underground? Jari nodded. My mate Dekal was one of the few who found evidence. He believed humans weren't the enemy, but someone inside both governments was working together to control everything. John leaned forward. What kind of control? Jari hesitated. The kind where people like us disappear. She pulled something from her coat. A small black data chip. This is all that's left of Dekal's research. He died trying to protect it. John stared at the chip. You risked everything to bring that here? Jari nodded slowly. He told me one thing before he died. Find the human with the scar on his back. The one who walked into fire to save the enemy. John's eyes widened. That was him. Only his squad knew that story. How did her husband know? Jari smiled faintly. He believed some humans still had hearts. Before John could speak again, the kids ran into the room. Something is outside, one of them whispered. Light. John grabbed his rifle. Jari's face turned pale. They've found us. He moved to the window, and there it was, just beyond the trees, a hovering drone. Silent. Watching he aimed. Wait. Jari said. John froze. She stepped forward, pulled back her sleeve, and showed a glowing mark on her arm. It was faint, but pulsing. What is that? He asked. It's how they track me, she said. But it was off until now. John gritted his teeth. Then we're running out of time. Jari nodded. If they take me, they'll kill the children. And you. John lowered his weapon slowly. Then we make a plan, he said, but Jari looked at him with something else in her eyes. Not fear, hope. John, she said softly, if I fall, you must protect them. Promise me. He hesitated, but then nodded. I promise. Outside, the drone vanished into the dark, but John knew it would be back with more. Jari placed the chip in his hand and whispered, this is not just about me anymore. It's about everyone they erased. And in that moment, John realized he wasn't just hiding a mother and her children. He was hiding the truth of a forgotten war. Asterisk. The boy was crying in his sleep. John heard it through the wall. It was a soft, choked sound like the child was trying to be quiet. Even while dreaming, he got up from bed, walked into the hallway, and opened the door to the guest room. Jari sat beside her sleeping children, stroking her son's head. The room was dark except for the soft blue glow from her skin. He dreams of the night we ran, she said without turning. The night his father died. John stood at the doorway, unsure if he should leave or stay. He doesn't scream. She added, he just weeps. Like Dekal used to, after his missions. John stepped in. I know what that feels like. Jari looked up at him now. Her eyes weren't glowing bright anymore. They looked tired, real. Sometimes I wonder, she said, if running made us safe, or if we just lost more pieces of ourselves. John sat on the floor beside her. The safe choice and the right one, he said quietly, aren't always the same. She nodded slowly. Then she said something unexpected. They call you father now. John looked at the sleeping kids. The little girl had curled up beside her brother, her small hand holding his. I noticed, he said, unsure of how to feel. They've never said that to anyone else, Jari said softly. Not even to their own uncle. John leaned back against the wall. I didn't ask for that. They know, she said. But they chose you. Silence filled the room for a long moment. Then Jari whispered, do you want them to stop? John thought about that. He thought about his old life. The loneliness, the quiet. The emptiness no mission ever filled. No, he said. I don't want them to stop. Jari looked at him for a long time. She studied his face. The lines. The tired eyes. The old wound on his cheek. The strength in his silence. And then she reached out. Not fast. Not bold. Just gently. Her hand touched his. It was warm. Not glowing. Not alien. Just warm. I will warm your bed, human, she said. If you allow me to stay. John blinked, unsure if he heard her right. But she didn't look away. She wasn't offering her body. She was offering her place beside him. In his life, in his fight. In his future. He took a breath. You're not a burden, he said. You're not a problem. You're family now. Jari closed her eyes, just for a second. And when she opened them again, something in her had changed. Softer, steadier, the kid stirred. The little boy whispered in his sleep, Papa. John froze again. Jari just smiled. That word, she said, means more than a title. It means safety. The next morning, John fixed breakfast. Burnt eggs, cold toast. The kids laughed at his poor cooking. Jari helped him mix better batter for the pancakes. It felt normal. Almost like a real home. But outside, the danger was growing. John noticed more drone paths in the sky. Tracks in the snow that weren't his. He walked the perimeter that afternoon, rifle in hand, and spotted a strange mark on a tree. It wasn't natural. It was a warning. When he returned, Jari met him at the door. Her expression was sharp. You saw it too, she said. Yes. They're not far now, she whispered. They're watching. And waiting. John looked at her and said, Then we make this place ready. We protect what we've built, and we don't run anymore. Jari nodded. Together, she said. That night, while the children slept and the wind howled outside, John placed extra power cells into the backup generator, checked his traps, and loaded every weapon he had. In the silence, Jari stood behind him. She placed her hand on his shoulder, and for the first time since they met, she said his name softly, John. He turned. I trust you with everything now, she said. Even my heart. And he knew then, this wasn't just about protection. It was about belonging. It started with a sound no one should hear, a heartbeat, but not John's, not Jari's. Not the children's. It came from below the floor. Thump. Thump, thump. Steady. Alive. Mechanical. John was fixing a loose floorboard near the kitchen. When he heard it, at first he thought it was a pipe. Then he felt it a pulse beneath his hand. He called Jari. She walked in and froze the moment she heard it too. No, she whispered, stepping back. It can't be active. John stood. Eyes sharp. You know what this is? Jari didn't answer. He pried open the floor, underneath. A hidden hatch. Sealed, old, covered in strange alien markings. John grabbed a crowbar and forced it open. Below was a narrow metal stairway leading into darkness. Stay here, he said to Jari, but she shook her head. If you go, I go. They left the kids upstairs with a blaster and strict orders not to move unless there was danger. Together, John and Jari climbed down. The air was thick, humid, humming. At the bottom, they entered a small chamber lined with alien machinery. Lights blinked on old consoles. One large pod stood in the center, sealed tight with glowing veins running across it. Jari's hands trembled. I thought it was destroyed, she said. Decal said it was lost during the purge. What is it? John asked. She stepped closer, eyes wide. This is a memory core. It holds the last thoughts of soldiers who died in battle. John stared at it. The pod had scratches, deep claw marks. And in the center, written in faded letters, was a name, Decal. John looked at Jari. This is your mate? No, she said slowly. This is his mind, his truth. Before he died, he uploaded everything he knew into this. John stepped back. You've had this under my house the whole time? Jari turned to him, her voice rising. No, I didn't know, I swear. I thought it was lost with him. They must have hidden it here, knowing no one would search an old soldier's cabin. John moved to the console. One red button blinked slowly. Jari grabbed his hand. If you press that, there's no going back. The signal will be sent. They'll know it's active. He looked her in the eyes. You said he died for the truth. Then let's hear it. And he pressed it. The room lit up. A low hum turned into a deep voice, broken, crackling, but clear enough to hear. If you are hearing this, I am gone. Jari held her breath. This is Dekal Katho. I was betrayed by my own. The Council of Silence. They plan to erase all who remember. The real war. The humans who fought beside us. The rebels. The truth. Static. Then more words. Asterisk. I leave this message for one man. The one they called Ghost. The human who pulled me from fire. Who risked death to save a stranger. John, if you hear me, they will come for you next. Protect Jari. Protect the children. And protect the truth. Asterisk. The message ended. The room fell quiet again. John stepped back. Jari was crying. Silent tears ran down her cheeks. He reached out and wiped one away. He planned this, she whispered. Even his death was a message. John walked over to the terminal. The light on it had changed from red to green. They know now, he said. Whoever they are, they're coming. Suddenly, boom. The entire house shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Another explosion rocked the cabin. Jari grabbed his arm. The children. They rushed upstairs. Smoke. A hole in the wall. A drone hovered outside, charging its weapon again. John shot it. Down with one clean blast. Then he looked at Jari. We need to run. But Jari shook her head. No, we need to fight. This is our home now. And you heard him, you're not just some soldier anymore. You're part of this. John nodded. He looked at the children, afraid, but brave. He looked at Jari, shaken, but unbroken. And he made a silent vow. No one would take them again, not without going through him first. Asterisk. The snow was burning. John had never seen anything like it. White ash falling from the sky, catching fire before it hit the ground. Not natural. Not right. He stepped outside with his rifle raised, eyes scanning the tree line. And then he heard it. A voice, mechanical, cold, not human. Return the fugitive. Surrender the memory core. This is your only warning. The sound didn't come from a speaker. It came from inside his head. He stumbled back, heart racing. Inside the cabin, Jari held her children close. She looked at John, and she knew. They've activated the hunters, she said. They don't speak with mouths. They speak with minds, and they don't take prisoners. John shut the door, locked it, and pushed a cabinet against it. Then they'll find we're not easy to take. A distant hum filled the air. Then a shadow fell over the cabin. Something massive hovered above the forest. A black craft, smooth, silent, shaped like a floating blade. The snow turned to steam as it moved. The kids cried. Jari wrapped them in blankets and pushed them toward the back room. John handed her a small blaster. I won't let them take you, he said. Jari looked at him. They're not here for me anymore. They're here for you too. John paused. Me? She nodded. You've been marked. You heard the message. They know you have the truth now. That makes you dangerous. John looked down at the floor, where the hatch to the basement glowed faintly. Then we make this truth impossible to erase. He rushed down to the memory core, pulled a backup data cube from the console, and slid it into a hidden pocket inside his vest. As he came back up, a loud crash shook the walls. The front door exploded inward. Black figures entered, tall, faceless, armor that moved like smoke. One of them raised a hand toward ZHA single quotes R.I. John fired first. The bullet hit its chest. Sparks flew, but it didn't fall. Jari screamed, "They don't bleed." The kids were hiding now under the table. John aimed again. This time at the head. Boom. It dropped. Jari grabbed one of the enemy weapons and tossed it to John. "There. Made of dark metal," she said. "You can't win with human bullets alone." Outside, more shadows circled the cabin. John looked at her. "Do you trust me?" "With everything," she said. "Then follow me. We take the fight to them." They kicked open the back door, ran out into the snow, and made for the woods. The forest was full of strange light red eyes blinking between the trees. "They've surrounded the area," Jari said. "They won't stop." John knelt behind a fallen log and handed her the backup cube. "If I don't make it, get this to someone who can use it." But Jari pushed it back into his chest. "No, we make it together, or not at all." Suddenly, a drone shot down from above aimed at the kids still in the cabin. John didn't think. He ran back, leapt through a broken window just as the drone fired. Boom! The roof collapsed. Smoke, fire, dust. Jari screamed. Then he came crawling out, holding both children, coughing, bleeding but alive. Jari ran to them and pulled all three into her arms. "Why did you go back?" she cried. John, barely standing, looked at her. "Because they called me father." More drones came, more enemies. John stood tall. "This ends now." He pressed a button on the weapon Jari gave him. A bright pulse shot out, an EMP, knocking down everything within 100 meters. The attackers froze, dropped, powered down. Silence. John collapsed to one knee, breathing hard. Jari helped him up. "You protected us," she whispered. "No," he said. "We protected each other." Behind them, the dark ship above cracked open. Something bigger was coming. Jari held her children close, looked into John's eyes. "If this is our last stand," she said, "then I'm proud to stand with you." John looked up at the sky. And whispered, "Let them come." John woke up in the dirt, not in pain, but in silence. For the first time in hours, there was no buzzing in the sky, no fire in the trees, no footsteps hunting them. Just silence. He opened his eyes slowly. Snowflakes drifted down from the sky, soft and gentle. The black enemy ship was still above but frozen, unmoving, dead. Jari knelt beside him, her face streaked with ashen tears. "You're alive," she whispered. John tried to speak but coughed. "The ship. It crashed," she said. "You did it. That blast, it destroyed their command node." He sat up with a groan and looked around. Bodies of the attackers lay scattered across the snow, glowing with sparks. The kids were huddled beside a tree, wrapped in a blanket, watching him with wide eyes. They were safe. They were alive. Jari touched his hand. "It's over, John." He looked into her eyes. For now, Jari helped him stand. His ribs hurt, his shoulder bled. But he smiled anyway. Together, they walked back to what remained of the cabin. The roof was gone. The walls were broken. Smoke curled from the burned kitchen, and still, it felt like home. John sat down on a rock and took a deep breath. The cold air was sharp but clean. Jari sat beside him. The children climbed into his lap. "I used to think I'd die alone," he said quietly. Jari looked at him gently. "You won't." He looked at the chip still tucked in his vest. "This truth," he said, "it needs to be shared. People need to know what really happened, what was hidden." Jari nodded. "We'll find someone who can expose it." John smiled faintly. "First, we rebuild." Later that day, a small scout ship landed near the forest. Not an enemy ship, a neutral one. Jari had sent out a coded distress signal before the final fight. One of her husband's old allies had heard it. A female alien stepped out of the ship, tall, silver-skinned, with one glowing eye. "I am Vale," she said. "Friend of Decal, you have something that belongs to the future." John handed her the memory core. But before she left, she looked at Jari. then at the children. "And what of them?" she asked. Jari looked at John. John said, "They're mine now." The kids held his arms tighter. Vale gave a small nod. "Then they're safe." Before the ship left, she turned back once more. "You're more than human, John. You're a protector. A father. That's rarer than any soldier." And then she was gone. The next few weeks were slow. The forest healed. Snow covered the broken ground. John and Jari worked side by side, rebuilding the cabin stronger this time. The kids laughed again. They helped carry wood, painted walls, and drew silly pictures of their new family on the rebuilt door. One evening, after dinner, as the fire crackled in the new hearth, Jari lay beside John on a thick blanket. The children were already asleep, curled up near the fire. Jari whispered, "This was supposed to be a hiding place." John turned to her. "Now it's a beginning," she smiled. "They called you a ghost in the war, a man with no past." He looked at her. Maybe that was true. "Not anymore," she said, resting her head on his shoulder. "Now you have a name, a role, a heart." John kissed the top of her head softly. "I have a home," he said, "because of you." Jari looked at him one last time that night, her voice barely a breath. "And I will warm your bed, human. Not out of duty, but out of love." And this time John didn't feel alone. He felt whole.